This is a region that gets 6 inches of rain a year.
What was once nothing but desert is now an oasis in the desert.
It's incredible that we're even sitting out here talking about waterfowl hunting. The challenge here is to take a good thing and to create more of it.
Ducks Unlimited Television is presented by Drake Waterfowl Systems, innovators in waterfowl hunting.
Welcome to Ducks Unlimited TV. I'm Ashley Ward. This week, Doug Larsen heads west to Washington State and California's Central Valley. Joining him is DU's Western Region Director of Operations, Mark Biddlecombe. Mark's career with Ducks Unlimited began in 1995, and few people know the habitat challenges facing conservationists in those lands better than Mark. In Washington State, in a very low rainfall area, we learn how irrigation practices have changed the waterfowl landscape. Later, newest Wetlands America Trust board member David Grieve hosts a hunt in the Central Valley. It's an incredibly important region for waterfowl, and saving and improving habitat there is a focus of Ducks Unlimited. Coming up next on DU TV.
I don't think I've ever hunted in any place where there appears to be less water and less agriculture. It's a very agricultural area, but you have a lot of these, mesas and high areas and dry ground. Since the advent of irrigation, the water tables come up, and now you've got ducks and geese all over the landscape here. It's really a modern miracle that agriculture and the presence of water have come together to make habitat.
Water use is a huge issue that we deal with throughout the West, and certainly here in eastern Washington. Being an arid climate, we have to maximize the use of water as much as possible.
In this area, that's equally the case, and maybe more so because water in the desert is at such a premium.
Water is expensive, it costs money to pump water, it costs money to take water, so you always have to maximize the amount of habitat, the amount of forage that you can get per drop of water out there.
So what we did this morning is we hunted a diver lake.
What makes this spot especially attractive is as the water comes up through the basalt, depending on where it goes through, it gets a lot of temperature. So this lake doesn't get much below 55, 50 degrees. So even in 10-degree weather, we still have wide open hunting on this pretty unique spot.
That 55-degree temperature also influences the types of foods that are available to waterfowl. There's little arthropods, little snails, little brine shrimp.
Got him, good shot. I was so far behind. They're fast and they come around that corner. It's sort of like NASCAR's third turn out there.
The nice thing is they're right on the water, so you can see exactly where you missed.
Yeah, thank goodness that Chris got after it, because I should have done my part, but boy, I'd sure like to see some more of that. That was pretty neat.
This area, even though it's arid, has numerous wetlands and some very large lakes. And it's interesting how that was created when they started damming up the Columbia River and irrigating land. A lot of that surface flow contributed to filling up potholes that were formerly pretty dry.
And when you add water to a habitat,
Whoa, good shot.
That's never had water before, you have an unbelievable duck factory, and that's what happened here.
The challenge here is to take a good thing and to create more of it.
But as time went on, A lot of ag runoff, a lot of soil was washed into these wetland areas, started filling up with sediment. So we have to go in and redo the ditch systems, clean out the canals, and do the same thing, resculpt the wetlands.
Ducks Unlimited Television is presented by Drake Waterfowl Systems, innovators in waterfowl hunting. Mossy Oak Shadow Grass Blades, the official camo of Ducks Unlimited. Browning Firearms, the best there is. And by Ducks Unlimited's Ducks Expo at Texas Motor Speedway, celebrating everything outdoors.
Within Washington and Eastern Washington, there's a lot of biodiversity in the opportunities that are available. We had the opportunity to hunt agriculture directly with hunting out of a flooded cornfield. And we got to hunt dabblers on that. My son Dakota is a fantastic outdoorsman. At 18 years old, he has a true passion for the resources and a true respect for what's happening in the outdoors and what's available to him.
I don't know, it's this different feel in the outdoors. It's that connection with nature that's really something else. It's something you have to experience to know.
Single coming good here.
So my son's involvement with Ducks Unlimited, obviously with my volunteer experience, he was around that. But his passions towards conservation are his.
Take them.
That was very well done.
Thanks. I'll give you the assist on that one.
Makes me homesick to be here with Chris and his son, because I've got a son that same age, and it's really neat to see the way they interact. You can tell immediately upon meeting the guys that they've hunted together a long time.
You're talking about the mist.
Oh, God.
The mist that just happened.
Well, let's not talk about that. I first got involved really into you. I was always there when I was a young kid, always going to the conventions with Dad. I really started listening when I started actually getting into really hunting.
Hope single.
He volunteers his time to help out. He is putting together a chapter within his high school. It's not tagging along with Dad. Ooh, nice shot, Doug. That was a beaut. You reach a point where I want to drive, the next conservation nail into the Ducks Unlimited plaque. He's a hockey player, and in Othello we don't have a lot of hockey opportunities, but we do in neighboring towns.
Because I had such a great experience with that, I get my friends involved a lot with this.
And he would rave about the opportunities he had hunting and fishing, and convinced his friends to come back with us and experience that with them.
Well, and your mentorship transfers to those kids. I mean, even if it's secondhand through Dakota, you're mentoring those kids because Dakota's teaching them how to behave and what waterfowling is about and where good shots are and how to put decoys out and all the stuff that you need to know. And I think that's part of what we lack, nationally, is just, people out mentoring the younger hunters so that they know what they're doing when they get there.
It's huge that my dad takes that time to go out with me and duck hunt. I know a lot of people don't have that opportunity. It's helped me kind of grow up a bit. We get to talk about things. I get to learn a lot from him because of it. And not just waterfowling, about life in general.
He's certainly got some big shoes to fill, and I hope for him that he finds his own path and does exactly what he wants to, but certainly the hunting fire seems to burn pretty bright inside that young man, and I suspect that he'll continue to hunt and be involved with conservation all through his life as well. That's what we're all looking for. That's what we all want to do, is carry that thread of conservation through our hunting lives, so that as we're hunting and traveling, that we're able to give back. And I can see that with Chris, and I can see that with his son as well.
California's Central Valley is among the top 5 most important and threatened waterfowl habitats in all of North America. Understanding the Central Valley and its role in waterfowl conservation begins and ends with understanding the issues around water supply. Water is a vital factor in the amount and quality of waterfowl habitat. the reliability of water supplies to the Central Valley's privately managed wetlands is uncertain at best. A rapidly growing urban population and a critically important farm economy in the Central Valley has put enormous demands on the water supply that's heavily dependent on seasonal snowmelt in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Ducks Unlimited and our partners have made considerable headway in the Central Valley since the early 1990s. About 60,000 acres of wetlands have been restored, along with over 56,000 acres receiving long-term protection. DU has over 1,500 different projects in the Central Valley and in the adjacent San Francisco Bay Area. For more information on how you can help, please check out our website at ducks.org.
DU Insights is brought to you by Mossy Oak Properties. Find your favorite place at mossyoakproperties.com. DU TV is powered by Browning Ammunition, the best there is. Mossy Oak Properties, America's land specialist. Purina Pro Plan, nutrition that performs. And Plano Synergy and Zinc Calls, a champion in every call.
Well, after 3 days of virtually no wind, we finally got a little frontal system and come through today. It's not going to be terribly cold, but at least we'll have some breeze. And it's predicted to gust 35, so I don't think we can ask for much more than that. We'll see how we do. Here we go. Coming from the right.
What in particular that I've watched when my son takes somebody new to the outdoors, the full encompassing experience. It's the smells, the touches, the feels, the sounds.
Let's go on these.
Then they get to see something they've never seen before. You just see a light go on and they're like, wow, I connect and I want to keep connecting.
As hunters, even when we were young, we understand that we need to conserve what we've got here or it's going to be gone.
There are lots of avenues for sustainable funding for waterfowl, and it is a huge challenge and a huge challenge in the future. What is critical? People. So when you see the passion you see in these kids, they live in places that they don't necessarily have the access that we have here. And they want to create that opportunity for their kids in the future and for their opportunities to have those.
I mean, I realize the kind of time you put in it, especially when you got kids that are busy doing stuff. And I got high school kids, and then now you get torn between
all the stuff.
Torn between kids stuff, and it's hard to find the time to do both sometimes, and you got to make tough choices. But when you make the time to volunteer, that you deserve the recognition. That's awesome.
Wow. I was shocked and humbled. The team of people that I had around me, the volunteer leadership team, was absolutely amazing. And I just happened to, for whatever reason, say the right things, maybe have a few of the right plans that kind of got everyone working in the same direction.
People think of DU as such a big organization, but it's the outposts in the Othello, Washingtons, and the Chandler, Oklahomas, and places like that that really that do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Lo and behold, one day they're doing a tribute dinner, and you can't believe it's happening.
The bad news, it means you're old.
Yes, it does. I'm starting to feel that way.
You never get a tribute in your 30s, do you?
How you get more people involved is connecting to their passions. When you can connect with people's passions for conservation, those passions will drive their future conservation work.
Go.
And they all fell in love with it. Typically, when I go out hunting these days, I've got 4 or 5 18-year-olds trying to keep them under control and not eating all my donuts and all the other things that 18-year-olds do.
A guy told me many, many years ago, there's good duck hunting and there's cheap duck hunting, but there's no good cheap duck hunting. That's just the way it is. And consequently, we're always looking for ways to fund what we do. And with more money comes more projects, and with more projects comes more ducks. It's that simple.
It's supposed to be easy to shoot a sitting duck, but anybody who's ever tried to shoot a cripple in the water knows it's not always easy. There's a few things you need to think about when you shoot cripples. The first thing is safety. You know, there may be a dog in the water, there may be a person in the water. If there's a dog in the water, I'll always ask the owner, you know, can I take this shot? Or better yet, I'll just let the owner do the shooting because it's their dog, let them make the call and make the shot. With a diving duck, it might hit the water and dive. So those, you know, there I'd risk a decoy. I'd go ahead and shoot as soon as it hits the water before it has a chance to gather itself up and go underwater. And the next thing to think about is where to aim, you know, because this is an aim shot. This isn't like wing shooting. It's more like turkey hunting. You're trying to hit the bird's head and neck because the wings and the water are protecting the vitals. So you've got a very small target. And what a lot of people do is shoot at the head. And what that winds up doing is wasting most of the pattern over the top of the bird. You're better off if you can hold down on the water line below that bird's head. You put more of the pattern into the bird, into the head and neck, and maybe a couple in the breast. You might get some of those pellets that hit in front of it, will ricochet up, give you an added chance to hit the head. But you do that, you won't wind up shooting 5, 10 shells at a cripple and watching it swim off.
DUTV is brought to you by Native Nurseries, hand-selected, hand-grown plants for wildlife. Higdon Outdoors, quality, customer service, innovation. That's Higdon. Biologic, scientifically proven wildlife products. Closed captioning for Ducks Unlimited Television is brought to you by Mossy Oak Bottomland, the official timber pattern of Ducks Unlimited.
In the world of waterfowling, all things may not be as they seem, especially to your retriever. Take a duck that falls across the water, makes a big splash, but that duck has no intention of staying there. He swims away into the buckbrush, but your dog is convinced he knows where the bird is. Can you handle out of that situation? Let's take a look. For this training scenario, we're going to need a helper. Stephen throws the bird in, nice big mallard, and sees the splash. He's convinced he knows where the bird's presence is, but I heel him away. Stephen slips into the water and moves the bird upwind. I line deep for the fall. He makes a diligent hunt across the water. Now we must move the dog in the direction of the escaping bird. This requires a dog that will handle. That means responds to the whistle, takes directions from hand signals, and the dog has confidence in you as the handler. Practice recovery in both upwind and downwind situations. It's best to get this right on land before going to the water. Practice the scenario, switching on doubles to hand signals, and you're going to be the smartest guy in the duck blind.
Duck Dog with Mike Stewart is presented by Purina Pro Plan, nutrition that performs.
It's almost hard to believe that California's Central Valley, that the Sassoon Marsh just outside of San Francisco, still exists. When you look at the building and development that's happening in California, this marsh and this area plays a very important part in Northern California's waterfowling and environmental history. You have this enormous marsh cut up by channels and surrounded by this mountain chain, and with an outlet to the Pacific Ocean. It's really a magnificent place.
It's really important for wildlife to be able to travel back and forth and not have to go through a city, and it's a unique situation here too because we're surrounded by city. There's 116,000 acres of different types of wetlands here, 52,000 acres of managed wetlands. That's a significant portion of the entire wetland ecosystem in the state of California.
But the Sassoon Marsh is really another example of hunters carrying the burden of conservation.
In the Sassoon Marsh, we have about 52,000 acres of managed wetlands, and 15,000 of that is state property. So the remainder is all private guys out there doing their thing and maintaining it as duck clubs, but without them, you wouldn't have all those wetlands there. It would fall into disrepair. And
the maintenance of things like levees and water levels falls on these individual clubs.
The club fell in major disrepair over the years. It had not changed hands since 1889. We still have some ways to go. The levees were in major disrepair when we took it over. We've repaired them. Unfortunately, we have a levee break right now. So a portion of the club is in a tidal marsh, and so that made it very difficult for the hunt. But
these are the behind the scenes things that happen with waterfowl hunting that it's hard to explain to the non-hunter. They just see They see us out there with our ducks and our dogs and our decoys and, you know, think that the hunting season is only 60 days, or in the case of California, 100 days. But it's a year-round problem, and they're about to have a big construction project out here to get it fixed, and I know they'll take care of it because they want the hunting to get back to the way they have seen it in the past and the way they enjoy it.
I think it's a very, very important work that they're doing around saving not only waterfowl, but creating great water around the world, and I think that's a story that's not told enough. I think it's important to note that the folks that do that aren't thinking about just today, they're thinking about, you know, generations to come, and that's a big deal for me, is that, you know, we can hopefully leave this a little better than where we found it.
It should go without saying that a key ingredient to healthy waterfowl populations is water. It's easy to forget, however, that not every region of North America is blessed with ample water supplies. Ducks Unlimited continues to work with individuals and state and federal agencies to ensure water and wetlands are conserved and available no matter what obstacles are in the way. A big thanks to Mark Biddlecombe for his tireless dedication to DU and our mission in the Pacific Flyway. And on behalf of all of us at Ducks Unlimited, thanks for watching, and see you again soon on DU TV.